What's good, gang? Yo, today we got a video coming from Skywatch TV. Some dude claiming he got abducted by UFOs with his whole family in the car. Tell you the truth, I don't even know, but we gonna check it out. Let's go.
On the night of August 17th, 1992, Gary Wood and his friend Colin Wright set off on a drive from Oxgangs to Tarbrax, a quiet stretch of road on the outskirts of Edinburgh, Scotland. It was supposed to be a straightforward 45-minute trip, but for one very unusual reason, they didn't make it on time. Somewhere along that road, an object appeared, hovering above them. One moment they were moving, the next, Gary was standing in total darkness, alone and unsure whether he was alive. When he came to his senses, the car was spinning across the wrong side of the road, and 2 hours had gone missing.
Yo, 2 hours, bro? Gary was drunk. That's what he saw in the sky. He saw them bottles floating. What the hell, man?
But the strangest part is that it happened to someone who didn't believe in UFOs or aliens. Not until that night.
Well, in the first place, me myself, I was a skeptic. I thought it was all like rubbish. It's not a thing I really dwelled on because I never had time for it in my life.
That detail matters. One of the first things people consider in cases like this is whether the witnesses could have been influenced by films, books, or other people's accounts, allowing their minds to imagine things. But in Gary's case, there was no prior exposure to UFOs or alien abduction stories.
We left around about 10 o'clock at night, the road, and chatting about general things, and then Colin made me aware of something on the road. And then what we seen on the road was this object floating 20 feet above the road.
The object hovered about 20 feet above the road. Gary later measured the road and found it was 22 feet wide, but the craft appeared even larger. It wasn't a helicopter, nor did it resemble any aircraft he'd ever seen. It had a solid, metallic disc shape with 3 distinct moldings running around its surface.
So I panicked, I crashed the gearbox in my car, I accelerated to go underneath the object, which you could start to see the underneath it. As I was going underneath.
Hold on, man. You telling me you traveling with your family, you see something floating above the highway, and you speed up to get up under it? 20 feet above you, man? Man, what the
That it dropped a shimmering curtain of light, basically like the offset channel of a TV, like a twinkling beam.
Yeah.
What? Light shining down like a TV signal? I ain't never heard no shit like that. Yo, Gary, what? What, Gary?
And then, everything cut out. Gary wasn't in the car. He couldn't see Colin. He was standing in total darkness, not knowing where he was or what had happened. For what felt like 10 to 15 seconds, he genuinely thought he might be dead. Then, without any clear transition, he was back in the driver's seat, with the car skidding across the road toward an embankment. Still unable to make sense of what had happened, they eventually continued on to their destination. But they were missing one crucial detail.
But the problem we have with this what took place was, from Edinburgh to Tarbrax is approximately a half-hour, 45-minute journey. We left just after 10. We arrived at Katrina's house at 1:45 in the morning.
That's roughly 2 hours they can't account for.
Hey, Gary lost 2 hours of his life, man. What happened, Gary? Was your nose bleeding? Did they tell you something, man? What's going on, man? Because this ain't it, bro.
Gary pushed back when people tried to dismiss it as nothing more than a distorted sense of time caused by stress. His argument was simple. He wasn't going to lose control of a car for an hour and a half and have nowhere to go. He wasn't wandering through some dark field. He was on the road, and he knew exactly where he'd been.
Nah, if you knew exactly where you been, then where'd you go, bro? What happened? A whole hour and a half? You know exactly where you went, though, right?
What makes this case unusual isn't just the missing time. It's what happened when Malcolm Robinson, one of Scotland's best-known UFO investigators, asked Gary and Colin to be interviewed separately, and then undergo hypnosis independently of each other. During those sessions, both men recalled being taken inside the object, where they described a room with a raised platform and figures, some small, others much larger, moving around them as they performed what appeared to be a physical examination.
It was just terror.
vivid memories seem to arise, beings, being in some form of a room, being on some form of a platform with these big...
Hey, that's crazy, but what's wrong with their neck, bro? Look like somebody screwed their top off.
creatures, there's small ones and big ones, around me, doing things to me.
What's especially intriguing is that the investigator himself said that, out of the hundreds of UFO reports he had investigated, this was the one case that changed his thinking.
I believe in the sincerity of these two gentlemen. This really did happen, and it's the only case in Scotland to take me off the proverbial fence into believing that perhaps, and it's a big word perhaps, humankind is indeed interacting with some form of alien intelligence.
Critics argued that fear can distort perception, that two frightened men in a speeding car could have blacked out, lost track of time, and then constructed a narrative to explain the gap. But that explanation runs into a few problems. Gary's and Colin's accounts, given separately and independently, matched. And the missing time has a reliable anchor, their arrival at their friend's house. Their friends were surprised to see them, especially because it was almost 1 in the morning, far later than anyone had expected. The investigator also points out that this is not an isolated pattern.
We used a hypnotherapist, hypnotic regression, to see if perhaps there were any other hidden subconscious memories of that night, and there were. It was a typical abduction scenario unfolded in which the car was stopped in the road and the two gentlemen were then taken, presumably, to this object, and they were experimented on some form of clinical or medical experimentation. But the growing weight of testimony from not only this country but from Canada, Venezuela, Paraguay, all over the world, these cases are similar. There is a case to be answered here.
But what makes this incident even more intriguing is that Gary's case wasn't an isolated incident, at least according to the investigator. He had been tracking UFO reports across Scotland for years, and what he found went well beyond a single incident on a single road.
I've noticed in my research there is a wealth of UFO reports. Over the past 7 years, Scotland has been gripped in this UFO fever, if you want to call it that. But clearly there is something very, very unusual occurring in the skies of Scotland, which do not conform to conventional type aircraft or helicopters.
But before we keep going with this incident, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider subscribing. It's free and it really supports the channel. As Robinson continued investigating the incident over the following months, he heard every natural explanation people could offer. His response was measured, but it left little room to dismiss what he and others had been documenting.
Well, it's fair to say that 95% of all UFO reports have natural, identifiable solutions. We're basically only talking about a small 5%. But that 5% taken on a global basis does indeed do quite a considerable sum, you know. But there is something tangible going on here in Scotland, something that defies description.
Now, Gary never tried to capitalize on the incident or seek fame because of it. He reached out to UFO researchers because he wanted someone to take what had happened seriously enough to investigate. Even though he went through an experience he couldn't explain, he says it completely changed his life.
I feel more comfortable now, rather than being up all night, terrified and scared.
Nah, I don't trust Gary. Gary might be drinking and driving out here.
In the end, what Gary and Colin experienced remains unexplained. Decades later, there has been no official investigation and no follow-up from any authority. The road is still there, with thousands of cars passing by every day. But no unusual incidents have been reported since that night in 1992. But let me know your thoughts on this incident. Do you think Gary and Colin were telling the truth? Share your opinion in the comments below.
Hey, UFOs over Scotland. What y'all think? Because Gary sounded a little drunk to me. But yeah, let me know in them comments. Hit that like button. I'm gonna catch y'all next time, man. Stay looking up. 1. Yeah. So I'm trying to make another video, right? But what do y'all think is the craziest video that you've seen? What's the craziest thing that you've heard? Or some of the weirdest clips that you've seen? Drop it in the comments and I'll check it out. I'll give it a look.